Welcome to Gold and Silver Assets. It's Sunday the 4th of April 2021. Now, since many of us are on holiday at the moment, I thought that we would take a break from all the heavy data and economic charts and have a lighter look at something that's still gold related. So today I'm going to recount a story entitled Something Fishy About Gold. The story begins a few years ago when I was on a trip to the UK and I was visiting a town called Hastings, which is on the south coast of England. So on this map here, it's just over here. And if we zoom in, it's a small area over here. Now, this town's got a lot of history behind it. It was actually the site of the Battle of Hastings, which was between William the Conqueror and King Harold in 1066. And while we were there, we visited the Fisherman's Museum, which is shown here, and that's located near the waterfront. And while I was there, surprisingly, we came across a fascinating numismatic story. This is a photo of a lady called Dorothy Bowra, which appeared in the 1963 edition of Angler's World. A year earlier, she'd bought herself a boat and joined the New Haven Deep Sea Anglers Club. And in fact, she was the first female boat owner in the club. And the male members often looked at her with suspicion and disapproval, particularly when she entered the club competitions. So at one such competition, she actually returned with 49 fish. So she did very well there. When she got back, she gave away 47 fish and just kept the two for herself as shown here. So that's a dogfish and a whiting. And she kept those to have for her dinner. When she got home, she cleaned and gutted the fish. And what fell out? Guts, yes, but also a gold coin. It was in fact a Guatemalan gold coin from 1860. And apparently only a few of those have been minted. Dorothy had the coin set into a brooch, as shown here, so that she could proudly display her catch of the day. I thought that was a lovely little story that brought around a few things to ponder. First of all, how did the coin get into the fish in the first place? Was the coin sitting on the bottom of the ocean? Maybe it was in a shipwreck. And, was it just swallowed by the fish at that point? It seems like a rather large and heavy coin to be sitting in a fish's innards. And it's amazing that the fish survived without a serious blockage. Also, the coin must have weighed it down when it was swimming. I mean, gold is quite a dense material. Did the fish actually swim with it all the way from Guatemala to the UK, or did it pick it up somewhere along the way, perhaps even locally? In which case, how did the coin get there? The thing I like about this story, though, is that even though she gave away 96% of the fish she had caught, she was rewarded for her generosity with luck, and therefore the gold coin stayed with her. Next up, the market update. Let's start with gold priced in US dollars on the weekly scale. And we've been looking at this long, boring correction here. And we've got this downsloping trend line over here, which hasn't been breached yet. So I'm still not worried. But I like this candle that we had last week. So you can see it's got a very long wick compared to a very slim body there. And that's promising. That is promising. Of course, there's no guarantees with these things. So what we're looking for is follow through, which basically means that we want to see another green candle that closes above this candle here, ideally. If we see a close below this, then more likely we're going to actually dip back down to here again. And yeah, that will be very disappointing for many. But let's see. I'm still hopeful about this. I think this is still looking all very positive. And if we look closer at the price action, so this is gold in US dollars on the daily scale, and previously we'd spoken about this structure here, which looked like an ascending wedge, and we had discussed the price target of possibly around 1700, which is what we reached. But I like the response when we reached that. I mean, this green candle was pretty strong reversal there, and we had some follow through as well. So I think this is still looking quite good. Is that a bottom? I don't know for sure, but I think it's promising. The other thing that we can see down here, we've got the RSI and we've got some divergence here as well. Although this is slightly a higher low, I think there's about $2 in it. This is much higher, this low here. Now, of course, you do have to take the RSI with a pinch of salt because you only really know for sure in retrospect. So you've got to be careful with these things, because what could happen is if the price does turn back around and come back here, you can actually get a lower low in the RSI, and that just negates it. So I never hold too much faith in using the RSI as, you know, on its own. You've got to just look at multiple factors there. But what we're looking for here now, ideally we want to get above 1750. That will be our first level of confidence. And then I would say around 1830. And of course, the ideal thing is once we get above this channel, we can be much more confident at that point. So we've still got a way to go. Let's move on to silver priced in US dollars. Again, on the weekly scale, we've got a nice similar looking candle to what we've got in gold, actually. So again, a nice long lower wick, a small body, and the close and the open are at the top of that candle there. So again, as with gold, I think that's still looking promising. And we're still looking pretty bullish because we haven't made a lower low. This was the low over here, and that has not been breached yet. Let's look a bit more closely. So this is silver in US dollars on the daily scale. And last week I talked about this possible descending wedge formation. And I think we were about here when we discussed that. And price dipped down onto that level. It actually dipped just below it, but that just reversed again, similar to gold, very quickly and bounced back up again. So this structure is looking like a possible bullish pattern here. What we're looking for now is a break above this upper trend line here. If that does occur, then what we'd expect is, so, I mean, there's a couple of things. It could just blast through there, or it could just kind of hang around there and then come up through there. But I would expect resistance at this 26 level still. So it might get knocked back a bit. How long it hangs around though, I don't know. It depends on what's going on in the markets. But yeah, I would expect that to be some resistance. But then I think we're looking to hop back into this trading zone over here between 26 and 28. But ultimately, I would expect this price to reach back up to at least this 30 level because of the pattern that we're seeing. Now, of course, some people can actually see different patterns, as I alluded to last week. So that's the pattern that I'm seeing, but others might see something different. So one possibility is that you've got a shoulder here, and then you've got a head here, and then another shoulder, and then price is broken below the neckline here, you could say, and then it's just retesting. So it's broken down, retesting, and then dropping further. So, you know, that's the thing about these charts. It's very subjective, and you can interpret it in multiple ways. And both of them actually look quite valid, don't they? I think that head and shoulders thing is a potentially valid thing. But I don't know, the way other things are looking just makes me think this is going to go upwards. But let's see. Nobody knows for sure. Now, one of the things that makes me think it's going to go upwards is looking at the physical market. And we've been looking at this chart of the premiums, which is from didthesystemcollapse.org. And that basically keeps track of the premiums every day based on eBay prices. And here we can see those premiums are creeping up again towards 50%. So, you know, the demand is there. And this is, I mean, if we go back to say 2019, 2018, the premiums were down here, you know, around 10%. So, you know, we're already looking at over 4 times the normal level of premiums here. So that doesn't really strike me as negative for silver. Of course, we're looking at the paper price on those charts there, but I don't think those low prices could last forever. Let's move on to the miners. And so this is the GDX on the daily scale. And again, I think this is looking hopeful. So the red line is that long-term support zone that we've had for about 8 years now. And price had dipped below it, but then came back up. And again, it didn't actually get back into that zone this time. It's actually bounced off it reasonably strongly, actually. And so I think the miners are looking pretty good as well. And they seem to be outperforming gold lately in recent weeks. When I'm looking at individual miners, so certainly with some of the Australian miners that I own, what I've noticed is the correction has kind of been similar in this channel. And so price has kind of gone like this. And what I'm seeing, my miners are kind of butting up against this line here, and they're kind of waiting to burst out through that. And it looks like it's not too far away either. Of course, yeah, it could drop again, but it's just been so long, and just the way it's behaving makes me think it is going to break out upwards. And so that's why I'm feeling quite positive about this. We'll only, of course, get confirmation once we get above this roughly 35 level over here. And then I think I'll have much more increased confidence once we get above there. Of course, yes, it is possible that we come up here and bounce back down and drop down and so on. But, you know, we just got to look at the charts and determine probabilities. Of course, different people will come up with different probabilities as well. But I'm thinking this is going to go upwards. The other reason I think that is that on the touches here on my individual miners, they were kind of similar to this, where they just kind of bounced off briefly, whereas here they're kind of hanging around quite a bit, which is another reason why I think it might just burst through there upwards. And let's have a look at the silver miners, which again seem to be doing reasonably well. So this is the SILJ on the daily scale, and we've had this long-term sideways movement, so we're not in a trending market yet. And this is the line that I've been talking about for some time now, and again it has not been breached. We tried to come down to there, but it never even reached there, and prices bounced back up again reasonably strongly, actually. What I'm looking for here is a break above this trend line here. So once we get above 1550, that will be a positive sign. But we'd be really, really happy once it gets above 17.5. And that would, I think, afterwards would be in a trending bullish market from there onwards. Well, I hope you're all enjoying a nice break. That's it from me for this week. See you next week. Bye.